more books to talk about. So the first one is Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kaysen. This was a lot different than what I was expecting. So I feel like most young ladies, I watched this movie when I was like in high school or whenever, and I think there's a moth right outside the window, and the cats are just losing it. I really, really liked the movie. I don't remember a ton about it, like plot wise. I remember that Brittany Murphy is very, very troubled, and that Angelina Jolie is very extra, I guess. But I don't remember like a ton besides that. I just remember like there's certain scenes. There's a specific scene with Brittany Murphy that I really remember. But based on that, I was expecting kind of more of like a through narrative, and that is not how this book is structured at all. She goes back and forth. It's not like I get checked in and then I get checked out at the end. It kind of goes back and forth, and she gives different scenarios. It kind of almost reminds me, like structure-wise, of A House on Mango Street, except the snippets are larger, but it's kind of like the same vibe where it's just like, oh, here's a little bit of this and here's a little bit of that. So I wasn't expecting that, and I feel like that maybe made it a little bit less enjoyable for me, especially because I don't know what chapter it is, but it's like really early on that the thing that happens with one of the characters that is extremely heartbreaking in the movie happens very early on in this book. And so it just felt kind of weird because in the movie it's, building up to this like very, very sad and tragic moment. And in the book it kind of just like says it right away. So I didn't have that emotional connection with the character other than what I had developed with the character in the movie. And I feel bad saying character because these are real people, obviously. This is a memoir, in case you didn't know. So that kind of threw me off a little bit. But in general, I thought this was really, really interesting, really good like look into the mental health system in general, especially like at the specific time and place. Like one of her like reasons, first of all, she gets like locked up after spending a very little amount of time with a guy that is not her regular doctor, and one of the reasons is because she like had sex with her teacher. Okay, so because she was statutorily raped because she was in high school, I assume, I don't know, she could have been 18. Either way, she was sent to an institution and nothing happened to the teacher, which I think is horrendous. Women are constantly used in this fashion, like throughout history. It just like disgusts me. So yeah, that kind of sent like a little rage fire through my body. It was also kind of a lot because I read this last month, and I also read The Collected Schizophrenias by Esme Wei-Jun Wong. And this was on accident that I did this. But it was really interesting reading these two books, and especially because I feel like Esme, she talks a lot about how people don't want to be labeled as a schizophrenic, and there is like that kind of othering in this book. She is not schizophrenic. I don't know what they label her as. I think she has like some kind of personality disorder, like maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying she's like mentally like super well, but she gets put in this place for having sex with her teacher, basically. I think she's got, some kind of personality disorder, I think, but she is like saying like, oh, I don't have schizophrenia, or like, kind of othering or shunning schizophrenics, which I think is really interesting after reading her perception of like that kind of situation, how it's okay to be crazy as long as you're just like, manic depressive or whatever. But if you're schizophrenic, then that, like, no one wants that, like, once that label's on you, it's on you and you can't get rid of it. So I thought that was really like interesting. Obviously, I'm not like faulting Susanna. That's just like how the society that we live in works. And yeah, so I would suggest this. I think it's really interesting. And then you can see like all of the relationships that she makes with the people in the, I don't know what the name of the place is, McLean Hospital, all of the people that she meets there and stuff. And I think it's a really interesting read. I feel like also when I was kind of like looking into it after I was reading or while I was reading it, she's written novels, I think, and other books, but obviously nothing that has been quite as successful as Girl Interrupted. But I would be interested in reading other things um, that she's written. And then the next two I don't really remember a ton about. The first one is Brian Aldiss, Three Types of Solitude. This is one of the Faber stories, and I really, really liked this. I feel like I saw other people like not enjoying this, but I thought it was fantastic. It's three teeny little stories, and they all made me really sad. So that's a win, in my opinion. I really couldn't tell you much about it. I do struggle speaking plot wise about small things for some reason. And then the next one is Dante and the Lobster by Samuel Beckett. I don't remember anything about this other than there's a lot of very graphic scenes about food and eating, and I think there's like some kind of cheese scene, and I remember being really, really grossed out. And usually just cheese and feet are the things that make me feel like ill, so I'm gonna assume it was cheese related. But I do remember this being like darkly funny, and it started off kind of weak for me personally, and then I thought it got better. And once you like kind of settle into the weirdness that's happening, I did end up really enjoying this too. But again, I don't remember anything. I probably could have read it before I filmed this, but I chose not to. The next book that I have is Troubling Love by Elena Ferrante, translated by Anne Goldstein. This was so strange. So like most people that are friends with Elena, I read the My Brilliant Friend series, and so that is kind of like all that I really know about her body of work, or all I know is that voice that she wrote those books in, and this is much slimmer. I'm curious to see what, like, which of her books were published first, because this to me, like, the writing was so different from those books. And I'm reading another one of her books right now, and the writing in this is very, very similar to My Brilliant Friend, but this was very like, like out here, kind of very strange. In this book, we're following a girl whose name is Delia. No. Yeah, Delia, whose mother has just drowned. And so she's, she lives far away from where her mother lives. And so basically her mom was coming to visit her. And along the way on the train, she somehow got off somewhere and drowned somewhere. And so it's so weird. She's basically like kind of learning about her mother's relationship with this man, by herself, kind of having a relationship with him, not in like a sexual way, but she's like kind of learning about him and about her mother's past more than she did previously. But what's different about this is that it's not 100% like realistic. There's a lot more like if you were to have a very lucid dream, and it's kind of like right on the brink of waking, and there's kind of this like mingling of the two vibes. Like, there's a lot of her drifting away and having these weird thoughts and ideas of what's happening, and so you don't really know like what is real, but it's kind of magical. So like the extra weird kind of thoughts are a little magical. It's a lot more nuanced and not as straightforward, I guess I should say, as the Neapolitan series. It's still, I think, set in Naples. And I will say there's like one uncomfortable like sexual scene that is really awkward. So yeah, that happened. I mean, it kind of happened. So yeah, I would recommend this, especially if you are more of I feel like a lot of the people that didn't like the Neapolitan series are people that are like really into writing, and writing is like the most important aspect of a book for them. For me, it's like the characters and the relationship. So this has both of those things, in my opinion. I do think the writing is more special, I guess. I feel like the Neapolitan novels, it's like very plain and straightforward, and this is a lot more like strange. But if you don't like to think too hard, you probably wouldn't like this then, because it is, it is not super straightforward. If that made any sense. And then the next thing that I have to talk about is Cannibalism by Bill Shute. Oh boy, so I was really, really, really excited to read this book because I have sick interests, I guess. You know, I just really wanted to learn about cannibalism in the world. And I got really, really, really bored during this book. The beginnings, let me see, because there's, different chapters about different things. So the beginning chapters I thought were super great. So Animal the Cannibal, Go On Eat the Kids, Sexual Cannibalism or Size Matters, Quit Crowding Me, Bear Down. I thought those were all great. It talks a lot about, mostly insects, but, I think like different lizards. And there's one instance of, that's not it. There's like these sharks that, they have like multiple pups that kind of like grow. I think they're in eggs and then they hatch. And so the first one that hatches, it basically eats all of its little brothers and sisters that hatch after him, and like the, kind of like survival of the fittest. And so all of that I found super interesting because I love science, and I picked this up because I thought it was going to be a science book. I should have known that it was going to be a science book though, because it says A Perfectly Natural History on it. So then things get weird after the science bits, which I really, really enjoyed. Again, the science bits. I'm trying to find a picture. The only problem is that there's a lot of pictures of spiders, so, those parts really upset me, but it was still the most interesting. Oh, here's a picture of the sharks eating his little brothers. So then the next chapter is about dinosaurs, and if dinosaurs did cannibalism or cannibalize their brethren, and then talks about Neanderthals and whether or not that was a possibility. And it's just like, it's not that I don't care. It's that, how are you supposed to tell me whether or not a dinosaur ate his other dinosaur? Like, there's no way to factually know if that happened or not. And it just bothers me. Like, I don't need speculation about that kind of a thing. And the same thing with the Neanderthals. Like, there's no, other than like, okay, there's cut marks on bones and that kind of stuff. But that's such a leap. I want like science and facts. I don't want you speculating or like using circumstantial evidence to like create a narrative that you want to create. Anyone could find that same evidence in quotes, and like come to their own conclusion whether or not someone was cannibalized or was not cannibalized. Like, I just think that's such a waste of a chapter. Like, cut that out of here, man. Sorry, no offense, Bill. And then let's see. Oh, and then they talk about Christopher Columbus and how he used cannibalism as an excuse to like, rape and pillage because, they're just cannibals, whatever. And then they talk about, the Donner Party, which I did think was interesting. But if you're like a big Donner Party aficionado, I don't think that would be interesting to you because you probably already know all about that. Then there's a couple chapters about whatever, and one of them I found very uncomfortable. It's called Eating People is Good. And they talk a lot about, Western cannibalism taboo and how like in China, like da-da-da-da-da, whatever. And it just felt kind of like othering to me, and I don't know. I just didn't like the the tone of it for some reason, but I could just be, having my own kind of issues in my own head. So I thought that was also like that chapter just made me uncomfortable. I was also kind of falling asleep during that chapter though, so don't quote me. Then we get into some kind of like the placenta stuff. The placenta stuff really upset me. That was like goop.com or whatever, which I've never been to, so I actually don't really know. But yeah, the thought of eating a placenta makes me want to throw up, to be honest. The thought of any kind of cannibalism, I forget what I was watching. I think maybe it was at So Sunny Philadelphia or something. And like, if you think too hard about what something actually is, it made me really ill reading that, like just thinking about that veiny meaty placenta. Blech, keep that away from me, please. And then, you know, cannibalism and okay, whatever. And then they get into mad cow disease, which I am extremely interested in. I have been mildly obsessed with variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease for a long time because I have been unable to donate blood since I was a teenager, basically because I've spent too much time in Europe, which, you know, you're like, oh, Stephanie, good for you. You get to spend a lot of time in Europe. It's great, but I really want to give my blood to save other people, and I can't do it because I might have variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is mad cow disease in humans. And so there was this whole chapter about that, so I found that really interesting. And there's a picture of like a picture, you know, picture is not the right word, but it's a hypothetical prion. So prions are basically these like proteins. Got hair in my mouth because I've been talking so vigorously, that like get folded and are not right, and so kind of like leads to like holes and stuff in your brain. And yeah, I'm really interested in that. So I thought that was really interesting. Again, the science bits I found to be very fascinating, but all of the history stuff, not so much, especially the stuff that like there's no data for, like at least the stuff about Christopher Columbus, like you've got writings and things like that. And in other instances, like when they're talking about like, you know, other like groups of people, because like the Kuruth was like a thing too that was mentioned in the book. You have at least people, you know, relaying stories to each other, which I trust more than a dinosaur might have eaten another dinosaur. Like that really annoyed me. If you couldn't tell, I have lots of thoughts about that. I did also want to mention that his writing it got better for me, but it's definitely very friendly, very friendly. I'm going to read you a little excerpt if I could find it. Oh, it's from the chapter about the Donner Party. And he meets a woman who knows a lot about the Donner Party. I'm pretty sure it's a woman. Yeah. So he's talking to this woman that knows a lot about the Donner Party because, like, that's probably her job, guy. And he says, in quotes, to his wife, I'm sure she knows what color underwear the Donners all wore. That's not a funny joke. That's so not funny. It made me uncomfortable again. I gave this 3 stars because the bits that I liked, I really, really liked, but a lot of it in the middle, I could have done without, unfortunately. So I would personally suggest you take that book out from the library because there are a lot of really interesting things, and I feel like everyone is probably interested. Like, I think I read reviews about it where the bits that I really liked, other people didn't like, and they liked the other kind of stuff. So I think that this book covers so many different kinds of topics that not every chapter might suit you. So taking it from the library, I think, is a good kind of like what's it called? Like compromise for that, because then you can just read the chapters that interest you and then move on with your life. All right. Those are the things. Sorry this was long. I probably should have done a video just about cannibalism on its own, but I don't feel like it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.